You think you will stay calm when the moment comes. Everyone thinks that. Until the pressure actually hits, until the message arrives, until the money tightens, until someone challenges your value. That is when your real conditioning speaks. Staying calm under pressure is not about controlling emotions. It is about controlling interpretation. The brain reacts to meaning, not events. If your mind labels a situation as threat, it triggers survival mode. Heart rate increases, thoughts accelerate, impulse takes over. But if your mind labels the same situation as challenge, growth, or temporary discomfort, the response changes. The body follows the story you tell yourself. This is where most people lose power. They never trained their internal narrative. They allowed fear-based thinking to repeat unchecked for years. And repetition builds neural authority. What you think daily becomes automatic when stress rises. Calm individuals train something different. They practice pause. They question their first reaction instead of obeying it. They learn to separate feeling from fact. Just because something feels urgent does not mean it is dangerous. Just because something feels overwhelming does not mean it is uncontrollable. Let me ask you something honest. When tension rises, do you escalate it internally or stabilize it? Do you add catastrophic thoughts or do you slow the story down? That split-second decision determines whether pressure dominates you or strengthens you. The mind under stress searches for certainty. If you have not built internal stability, it will grab the fastest explanation available, usually the worst one. Calm people interrupt that pattern. They replace assumption with evaluation. They replace impulse with awareness. Pressure does not create chaos inside you. It reveals whether your thinking has structure, and this leads to something deeper. If interpretation shapes reaction, then what shapes interpretation? That is where identity enters the picture, and that is where everything changes. Your identity is the silent commander behind every reaction. When pressure rises, you do not respond as a neutral observer. You respond as the person you believe you are. If deep down you see yourself as fragile, unprepared, or constantly at risk, your nervous system will defend that identity. Every challenge will feel like confirmation. Every obstacle will feel personal. But if you see yourself as resilient, capable, guided, and growing, the same pressure activates a different script. The body still feels intensity, but the meaning shifts. Instead of "this is too much," the mind says, "This is difficult, but I can handle difficult." Identity filters interpretation before logic even enters the room. Most people try to control emotions directly. That rarely works. Emotions are outputs. Identity is the source code. Change the identity, and the reaction recalibrates naturally. Think about the moments when you handled something better than expected. You surprised yourself. In that instant, you operated from a higher self-concept. You did not shrink. You stepped into strength. That version of you already exists. The question is which identity you rehearse daily. Pressure exposes self-perception. If you secretly doubt your capacity, stress will magnify that doubt. If you have reinforced self-trust consistently, stress will activate it. This is why inner dialogue matters more than external circumstances. The words you repeat internally become psychological instructions. "I always fall apart" becomes a prophecy. "I adapt and grow" becomes conditioning. Let me challenge you directly. Who are you when things go wrong? Not when life is smooth. Not when everything aligns. When something breaks unexpectedly, who steps forward inside you? Calm people decided that version in advance. They did not wait for chaos to define them. They built identity intentionally. Through repeated choices, disciplined thoughts, and alignment between belief and action. And now we reach the critical layer beneath identity. If identity directs reaction, what strengthens identity under stress? The answer is training, but not the kind most people expect. Training is what turns identity from intention into reflex. You do not rise to your beliefs under pressure. You fall to your preparation. That is why some people sound confident when life is calm, but collapse when reality tightens. Their identity was theoretical, not practiced. Real calm is built through exposure. When you voluntarily place yourself in controlled discomfort, you teach your nervous system that intensity is survivable. Difficult conversations, delayed gratification, physical discipline, emotional restraint. Every small act of self-control strengthens your tolerance for stress. You are teaching your brain, this is uncomfortable, not dangerous. Avoidance does the opposite. Every time you escape tension, your brain records it as threat. The next challenge feels bigger. The next conflict feels heavier. Slowly, your stress threshold shrinks. Calm people expand theirs. They do not wait for life to test them. They test themselves. They practice silence when they want to react. They wait before responding to messages that trigger emotion. They observe their thoughts without immediately believing them. These micro-disciplines look insignificant, but repetition transforms them into automatic stability. Let me be direct with you. When something irritates you, do you react instantly or do you create space? That small decision is either reinforcing chaos or building control. Your nervous system adapts to what you repeatedly expose it to. If you constantly feed it urgency, noise, and emotional spikes, it will live in high alert. If you train it with stillness, reflection, and intentional action, it learns regulation. Pressure is not the enemy. Untrained response is. And this brings us to something deeper than behavior. Because even with training, some people still crumble. Why? Because beneath habits, beneath identity, there is something even more powerful shaping your stability. Belief is the deepest stabilizer of the human mind. You can train habits. You can reshape identity. But when pressure becomes extreme, your core belief system decides whether you remain grounded or collapse internally. What you believe about control, meaning, and purpose determines how you interpret adversity. If you believe everything must go your way to be safe, pressure feels like injustice. If you believe growth often arrives through resistance, pressure feels purposeful. The event does not change. The interpretation shifts based on belief. This is where spiritual anchoring transforms psychological resilience. When someone believes their life has meaning beyond the immediate situation, stress loses absolute authority. The mind stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and starts asking, "What is this shaping in me?" That question alone regulates the nervous system. It introduces perspective, and perspective creates emotional distance from panic. People who remain calm under intense pressure usually operate from long-term vision. They are not hypnotized by the present discomfort. They zoom out mentally. They evaluate consequences before reacting. They remember who they are becoming, not just what they are facing. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When something goes wrong, do you immediately assume loss, or do you search for refinement? Do you interpret delay as failure or as preparation? Your belief system answers those questions automatically. Without a stabilizing belief, pressure feels random. With a stabilizing belief, pressure becomes directional. That shift changes chemistry inside the body. Fear reduces, clarity increases, response becomes intentional. But there is still one final layer most people overlook. Even with belief, identity, and training, there's a moment where reaction is decided in real time. And mastering that moment separates composure from collapse. Everything we discuss leads to one decisive point: the moment between trigger and response. This moment is brief, almost invisible, but it is where composure is either preserved or destroyed. Pressure does not force you to react instantly. It invites you to. Most people accept the invitation without questioning it. They feel the surge and they obey it. Voice rises, words slip, decisions rush forward without evaluation. Seconds later, regret appears. Calm individuals protect that moment fiercely. When tension spikes, they slow time internally, not physically. Mentally, they notice the surge instead of merging with it. Awareness interrupts momentum. Instead of saying, "I am angry," they recognize anger is rising. That subtle shift creates separation, and separation creates control. This is emotional authority. The brain's survival circuits push for immediate action, but higher reasoning requires space. If you respond before thinking, instinct dominates. If you pause intentionally, judgment strengthens. Let me speak directly to you. The next time someone challenges you, interrupts you, or disappoints you, what will you do in the first 3 seconds? That is where everything is decided, not in the long speech you give, not in the explanation afterward, in the first internal reaction. Calm is not the absence of intensity. It is mastery over that first impulse. And here's the powerful truth. The more you practice protecting that moment, the longer it becomes. What used to feel automatic starts to feel optional. You begin to realize you are not your first reaction. You are the one who chooses whether to act on it. This is where stability becomes strength. Because once you master the moment, pressure no longer controls your behavior. It reveals your discipline. And now we arrive at the closing transformation. Because understanding this changes how you walk into every future storm. Now you see it clearly. Calm under pressure is not a gift reserved for few. It is constructed, thought by thought, choice by choice, moment by moment. You train your interpretation. You reinforce your identity. You expose yourself to controlled discomfort. You anchor your beliefs. And when the trigger comes, you protect the space between impulse and action. That is the architecture of stability. Most people wait for life to become easier so they can feel peaceful. But real composure is built before life cooperates. It is developed in ordinary days, in small frustrations, in quiet discipline. When the real storm arrives, you are not improvising. You are executing what you practiced. Let this stay with you. The next challenge you face is not there to measure your weakness. It is there to reveal your preparation. And from this point forward, you do not prepare by hoping for less pressure. You prepare by becoming stronger internally. The person who stays calm is not emotionless. They are anchored. They are trained. They are intentional. And you can become that person. If this message helped you see pressure differently, subscribe to Silent Psychology and activate the bell so you do not miss the next conversation. Each video is designed to strengthen your internal structure, sharpen your awareness, and deepen your resilience. Build the mind that remains steady. Train the identity that does not fracture. Strengthen the belief that does not collapse. Because the storm is not the enemy. Lack of preparation is.